Alright, I would like to first say that I've been wanting to do a series of lists for a while, and now that I've gotten the proper equipment to do so, I'm proud to say that this is going to be the first of hopefully many more top 10 lists. My inspiration and my thanks go out to Ultimate UK Final Fantasy Fan, or KHF as you may or may not know him by. To reference something KHF tells his subscribers, keep in mind that this list is mine and holds my own opinions. If they differ from yours, that's fine. I don't have to think like you, and you don't have to think like me. That's why we're individuals. Just be mindful that if I mentioned or didn't mention a character you think should have or should not have been on there, I'm sorry. My list may change at a later date, but of course, this is the most current. Without further delay, let's get started with my top 10 favorite anime characters. At number 10, I have to say in my youth of watching Lupin the Third on Adult Swim, before they got retarded and began stripping away a lot of the good anime and replacing it with their homegrown shit, this anime was great for seeing the other side of the law through the eyes of a band of thieves. And although the art style was a little different, my favorite character had to be Jigen. Not only is Jigen a sharpshooter with an awesome outfit, he's essentially capable of performing impossible shots with a revolver. And I think with a 0.3 second quick draw, that's skill enough as it is. He serves as sort of the conscience of the group, even though that seems like something more suited for Goemon, if you ask me. Number 9. Again from my youth, before I knew that there were good dubs and bad dubs, I couldn't help but be drawn to Zoro from One Piece. Yes, I watched him first with the 4Kids dub, and yes, I know that dub is horrible, but I wasn't much in it for the voice acting, as I was seeing a man wield not one, not two, but 3 katanas at once. I mean, he manages to take down enemies with a sword in his mouth. That, in my opinion, is quite impressive and awesome. Now for my number 8 pick. This character will be a surprise to my friends who think I'm more of the action-oriented kind of guy when it comes to favorite characters. And while that's true, Ritsu Tainaka of K-On! Is on my list for a few reasons. First off, I adore her energy. She's got the kind of spunk that really seems to motivate some of the members of the Light Music Club. That and her relationship with Mio from the start goes to show she likes pushing her friends to do their best. And while I can't say I like the fact she's often on the same mental wavelength as Yui, Ritsu managed to make it to my number 8 spot by personality alone. For number 7, I thought long and hard on this one, mainly because I was unsure if I could count a Gundam as a favorite character, but even though I really enjoy Gundam Death Scythe and Death Scythe Hell Custom, Duo Maxwell comes in at number 7 because, of course, he pilots a Gundam far cooler than any of the others. Even though I like Tall Geese and Zex, Duo in the English dub is portrayed, I think, as accurately as American as possible, and his way of using humor to hide some shadier parts of his past make me relate to him easier than most characters. For the last on the bottom half of the list, I'd like to say that while I don't watch the shows that are considered popular among fans often enough anymore, before I gave up on it, Bleach had one of my favorite characters ever, Kenpachi Zaraki. Kenpachi is a badass, pure and simple. He fights not just to fight, but because he's looking for someone stronger than him to kill him. And if they can't kill him, he'll kill them. He's also the only captain in the 13 Court Guard squads to have achieved his position by killing another captain. If that says nothing about his power, then I really don't know what to tell you. Number 5. I loved this series shortly after the first episode because it seemed to drag on for a little bit, but I caught on to just how gritty, violent, and quote-unquote real an anime can be. Despite all the gun-fu that goes on, while it would have been easy to pick the main female protagonist of Black Lagoon, Revi, I have to go with another character, Roberta. Now let me tell you a little bit about her if you're unfamiliar. Roberta is a maid who was previously an assassin known as the Bloodhound of Florencia. She shows off how truly badass she is by coming to Roanapur to seek out her kidnapped master, who is a little kid, mind you, and makes it a point to kill anyone in her way. She pursues the members of Lagoon Company to the point where they described her as Schwarzenegger in the Terminator, because no matter how hard they tried, they couldn't keep her down. And if you're following the manga, Roberta continues to go from badass to batter ass. Number 4. Now, if you couldn't tell by my name, you would probably think that Mugen would be higher on my list of characters. And if I had made this list around the time Samurai Champloo was aired, he certainly would have been. However, that's changed over time, but he's still within my top 5. Mugen was interesting to me because he's technically not a samurai, but more of a vagrant with sword skills. Technically, he's an ex-pirate who utilizes capoeira with his attacks, but it looks a lot more like breakdancing to likely fit with the theme of the show. And I had a hard time deciding upon Mugen and Spike from Cowboy Bebop because both are really skilled fighters. But I had to go with Mugen simply because I thought he was a more medieval and rougher version of Spike. Plus, he writes his name with the infinity symbol because he doesn't know how to read or write and figures that infinity suits him just fine. On to number 3. Now, I give some of my friends flack for liking Naruto, and I know that there are some hardcore fans of the series who prefer characters like Sasuke, or Naruto, or hell, even Gaara or Kakashi. But my favorite character is Shikamaru Nara. He's lazy, intelligent, and despite the fact that if he applied himself in all that he did, he'd still see his task as bothersome or a drag. Shikamaru made it so far up my list not just because of his laziness, but because he thinks of his fights like a game of strategy. He's always steps ahead of his opponents and considers any and all moves that they could make to alter his own strategies. I even loved when he gave up on his fight with Tamari in the Chunin exams, because even if he could finish her off, he saw it as bothersome to continue on, and then he was out of chakra anyway. His laziness also granted him the title of Chunin, even though he didn't win his match. Winning based on laziness is really something I wish to aspire to. Life would be a lot easier. Number 2. Now, this anime I had followed since my youth, and I was always a fan of the bad guys, because no matter what they tried, the heroes always beat them down. I didn't feel sorry for the bad guys, I just didn't like that any of them couldn't catch a break even for a minute. That's why when Vegeta from Dragon Ball Z first showed up, I was hooked. Vegeta was, and will always be, the most badass anti-hero ever in my opinion. Vegeta killed his wounded partner just because he was weak. He fought off leagues of Frieza's henchmen, and even after he joined the other Z fighters, he was still as cruel as ever. He even busted his ass to achieve the level of Super Saiyan, and wasn't shy about showing it off. Vegeta's pride for himself as the Prince of all Saiyans, despite being second to Goku in power, made him my favorite for a long, long time. Before we move to number 1, a quick review. Number 10, Daisuke Jigen. Number 9, Roronoa Zoro. Number 8, Ritsu Tainaka. Number 7, Duo Maxwell. Number 6, Kenpachi Zaraki. Number 5, Roberta. Number 4, Mugen. Number 3, Shikamaru Nara. Number 2, Vegeta. And number 1, perhaps one of the most influential characters in all of my anime watching experience, despite coming in years after I started watching. My friends could have guessed this one right away. Yes, it's Kamina of Tengen Toppa Gurren Lagann. Kamina from episode 1 seemed like a total moron, yet it was his desire and belief in a world beyond the world they'd known underground that drove him and Simone to meet up with Yoko and engage the Beastmen on the surface. After seeing the giant robots being piloted by the enemy, he decides to just take one, and when he can't get it to move, his manly spirit was what drove him to pilot Gurren and further inspire those around him to do the same. He proved himself as a capable leader, perhaps not in strategy, but more so in the charisma needed in a true leader. Despite the fact his reign as leader of the Dai Gurren was short-lived, yes, I prefer that above Gurren Brigade, even though I love the dub of the series. Kamino continued to inspire the members of the brigade even after his death. Now, to me, that says something for just how influential he was. When he died, I cried. That's right, cried. because there was absolutely no way I could have prepared myself for something like that. But although it's been a favorite of mine for a little more than a year and a half, Gurren Lagann introduced me to a greatly influential and inspirational anime character. And that's it for my list. And I would love to hear your comments as well as see what your top 10 anime characters are. Just keep in mind that these are my favorites, not yours, so you don't have to agree with me.